This episode of SESSLER'S Something is brought to you by Fullsail University. Hey everyone, before I get to my something, I want to let you know below is a link that goes to a survey. We're taking on some interesting initiatives here at Rev 3 Games, some stuff we're really excited about. But of course, we would like to have your input since, you know, we can do it, but we would like you guys to enjoy it. We want to hear some of your thoughts of what you would like us to do and where you would like us to go. So please, 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 please take a little bit of time and fill out the survey below. It really will benefit you. It will definitely benefit us. And it's a big happy world. You know, you get to check boxes. SAT. All right, so I would say the big events of last week, not so much the closing down of the Titanfall beta, which brings a tear to my soul, but something that is quite unfortunate. I don't want to be glib. It was the closing of Irrational Games. Obviously, this is the studio that made BioShock and, of course, BioShock Infinite. I don't want to go into sort of what I speculated are the rationales and if it was a good idea or a bad idea, because that just kind of is unnecessary in light of it happened and that's how it is. But some of the talk that came out of it and the statement that Ken Levine presented really highlights that there's always a shift happening in the game industry, but there seems to be a big one that's happening faster than I would have thought. This does not mean that AAA studios are going out of business, but it does point out that on the creative side, there are so many challenges faced when you're doing AAA, when you're taking on something as ambitious as a game like BioShock Infinite, which was in development for around 5 years. That's a lot of money going into the company, and there's no money coming out until the game finally hits the shelves. In a similar situation, well, not situation, but a wonderful interview in Gama Sutra, Lee Alexander interviewed Cliff Bleszinski, and you really got a sense of the same thing, that when there's that much money invested, there's that much more interest from various parties of how it turns out to be, and it's not necessarily the personal expression of the key creative people involved in the making of the game. And that, coupled with that sense of pressure, we can see that with both Cliff and what it sounds like Ken Levine and his small team are going to do. They're looking at something that is entirely digital. It's going to be for download. It's probably going to be for the PC. It's a smaller team, and it seems to be more experimental, more articulating the vision of the people involved. This is a good thing and this is a bad thing. Remember, I've always looked at the game industry as being an ecosystem. This does not preclude having AAA games, but we're going to have something alongside AAA games. But I think there's a very good chance we're going to see fewer and fewer of these major blockbusters. Games are very, very different than film in terms of the amount of time. Well, the amount of time in making the product where you're really spending the highest amount of money. There's a lot of marketing and stuff like that with film, but you don't have these 3 to 4 year development cycles where it's very uncertain if something's going to work. You know, John Carter, A Famous Disaster. That happens once, twice, maybe 3 times in a given year in film. I think it's actually happening far more. Maybe the budgets aren't as high, but the margins and what is lost because they didn't get the sales are massive. Look at Tomb Raider from last year. There are certain realities that are really coming into play in the game industry, but the upside is when you have something that's happening on the indie side and that's starting to inform these veteran designers, this is going to create more product, more diversity of product. But the most important thing is we as consumers need to understand that a good game, an important game, a game that we need to be playing doesn't have to be the one with the tens of millions of dollars in the budget and the highest and best looking graphics. It can be the ones with the most creative ideas, the ones that may not necessarily be perfect, but really further that discussion of where games can go and how much we can enjoy them. All right, before we get to part 2, I would like to thank our sponsor, Fullsail University. Obviously, you love to play video games. Have you thought of creating them? Whether you're interested in programming, art, animation, story creation, or even producing games, there's a game degree program at Fullsail University to fit your needs. Fullsail's campus is equipped with professional level game studios and labs where you can work with teams of your peers to create a playable game from start to finish. Fullsail grads have worked on titles such as Red Dead Redemption, the Call of Duty series, and more. And Fullsail University also offers a variety of campus and online degrees in fields related to the entertainment and media industry, including art and design, filmmaking, recording arts, entertainment business, and many more. Visit fullsail.edu/something to learn more. So the other thing, if you happen to catch the 1 hour live stream of me making a complete ass of myself in honor of the remarkable phenomena that is Twitch Plays Pokemon, you know that we've all been kind of subject to something that's really kind of awesome. And even for someone like me that doesn't even understand Pokemon, much less like it, it really was a fascinating look at what's happening both with community and the way in which we're finding games in games that were never intended in the first place. For those of you that don't know, people were able to input controls to a Pokemon game, and everybody's input was being replicated. It became this almost sort of strange way of guiding a cacophony into something far more orderly to get through the game. I would just sort of sit there and watch the insane scrolling of controls and directions and just watching how it was being manifested right there in, Pokemon Red and Blue. Not the Pokemon game I was expecting it was going to be, and that made it all the more interesting. This idea of having a game played by the aggregate behavior of a multitude of players. I mean, we've seen this in a couple of much smaller instances, Peter Molyneux's Curiosity Cube or Noby Noby Boy, the incredibly bizarre Noby Noby Boy. But this is a new way of looking at how, well, the desire on our part, and I talked about this last week in the multiplayer something, that we have our instance sitting at home playing, but we like that idea of being part of a community, part of a collective, and seeing it all sort of come together, maybe in concert, maybe in not. There really is a sense that that's what's special and that's what's unique about games. And I think what's really interesting about the Twitch Plays Pokemon is it's not just in the game itself. We're seeing this amazing rise of what's happening on Twitch and what's happening on YouTube, something I've been trying to learn as quickly as possible. And my mind has changed about the idea and the value of, say, a Let's Play now, which I now do, versus 2 years ago where I thought they were completely silly. It once again is, games are a language. Pokemon has all this kind of very particular vernacular to it. We know how to talk that way, and we know how we can have those discussions through the games, and that's why it's fun to watch someone play. It's why it's fun to watch someone play with thousands of other people. It's not just a sense of shared experience, but in many ways, we are speaking to one another, and we know that we're part of something special. I think it scares the crap out of people that don't understand it, but that's, half the fun. And, something as small, as inventive, and probably not that costly as Twitch Plays Pokemon can garner that much attention. And we look at something like the closing of Irrational Studios, the alleged failure of something like Tomb Raider. And I think this is where large executives need to take note. This is where the enthusiasm is. This is where the excitement is. And it really doesn't mean it's in 1080p. All right, there we go. One more thing. I told you at the top, please fill out that survey. Assuming you have now watched this, I'm reminding you, please go fill out that survey. It really could lead to some really fun and exciting things that we're going to do here at Rev3 Games in 2014.